everyone, and welcome to the second live stream by Joshua757. I hope you all can hear me, and if you can't, then would appreciate if someone could, let me know in the chat. I've got the chat open on another computer, so hopefully we can all participate. And if anyone has any questions, then I can reach out and clarify stuff. Okay, so what is the flight today? Today, this flight is a mission, okay? It's going to be me powering this 747. So this, as you know, is the Rolls-Royce Boeing 747-200 series. There used to be a test bed. Recently, it got retired, but in Explain, anything is possible. So I'm proposing a mission where we will bring back the 747 Classic. Let's assume that another company wants to buy it and it's been maintained and we're ready to go. But before we send it to the customer, we need to ensure that it passes a couple of functional evaluation tests. So today we are going on a functional evaluation flight, FEF. And this is a perfect opportunity to showcase this add-on as well as how to fly it. I'll be showcasing all of that stuff today. And if anyone is thinking of buying this add-on, I would recommend it. And yeah, I've seen all the stuff about it being a steep learning curve, whatever, but the thing is with me, I don't believe in steep learning curves. So I'm going to show you exactly how to start this aircraft up. And by the end of this stream, you'll be very confident. What else are we doing in this stream? We're going to do a couple of things, test out quite a lot of systems, have some fun with the gear, flaps, alternate extensions, stalls, and even jettison. So stay tuned. So the first thing I'm going to do is start the aircraft, but before that, I just want to explain to you that I am at a nice Algerian airspace. Airport ICAO code Delta Alpha Uniform Tango, and we'll be flying to Delta Alpha Oscar Oscar, which is about a 1 hour and 40-minute flight. Okay, so getting started right away, I want to come over to the Fly Engineers panel, like so, coming over to the DC meters, and we're going to check our battery volts, like so. And yep, more than enough. Slightly above 25, so 27. So let's avail of that. So yeah. So we've turned on our battery and we can now come over to the standby power, set that to normal. And right now it's on. We can also observe some drainage from the battery. It's showing a little bit of amps. Looking at the live chat, and can see a couple of comments. Isn't the GE747 based out of Victorville? Well, yes it is, but in the sim we can do anything. Is this a GE747? Well, it might be. I don't know. But in this case, I've swapped it for Rolls-Royce engines because in the flight sim you can do anything you want. And that's a nice thing. Okay, so let's get the external power connected. So coming over to the EFB, and it makes sense. I mean, it's a Rolls-Royce test bed, so I just wanted to slap on Rolls-Royce engines, just because I can. So coming over here, we need to start setting stuff up. So let's go to the ground page, set the chocks, set the GPU. Okay, that's all good. Let's come over to the payload section. Let's see. I've got some figures, some sim brief. So cargo today is 39,700. Let's load that in. People today, let's say it's a test flight. So at best, how many people will be on board? About 20 or so. Not everyone likes to stall and take all that stuff. And yeah, let's see how much fuel we need. Let's see, so cargo, and let's go to the fuel page, refuel, and the fuel value I've got is about 27,000. But actually, let's take on some more, so let's take on, say, 45,000. So let's reach this amount and let's go to the payload section and let's board these people on board. There we go. So coming to the outside, you'll probably see, yep, doors are opening, external power is selected, and yeah, let's press on. So coming over here, we can now check our AC meters, come to the external power 1 and 2 is checked, 115 volts, 400 hertz. So let's connect it. So coming over here, we can also verify this with the external power connection lights, they're on. So let's close that and we have external power connected. So now a couple of systems will start coming back to life. The aircraft is fully powered up. Let's get the nav lights on, like so. Nav lights are on, and yeah. Let's also check our essential bus. We'll turn it off and check the fail light and set it back to normal, and we're all good. So let's start the alignment now of the INSs. Let's turn our master radios on, and yeah, let's start. So coming over here to the INS, not INS today, FMC. We're going to clear this message out, nav data out of date, so on. Let's go to the, let's see, how do we do this? It's been a while, you say, been on INS for a very long time. And yeah, let's also go to our MSUs, turn ourselves to nav. There we go, nav on 1, 2, and 3. There we go, set to nav. And you'll see the horizon starting to come alive as well. Let's also set in our position. So today we are at Delta Alpha Uniform Tango. Add that in. There we go. The ADI is starting to come to life. And let's add in our destination, like so. And let's go to departure and arrivals. Departure runway 24. Go back to the flight plan, next page. We're going directly to the TIO VOR, which is this option over here, VOR DME 112.80. After that, we're going to fly a series of airways and waypoints, like so. So just entering everything in, and let's go back to the arrivals page. Today we're going to fly ILS runway 25 left. The transition is this waypoint over here. Coming back to the flight plan, just checking the route. And also let's go to the legs page, check everything. Yeah, let's execute it. Looks all good, and now just checking the rest of our pages. We have a couple of information here. Cruise altitude today, let's say, is flight level 300, 30,000 feet. And yeah, I think we're all good. It's quite a short route today. And let me keep myself on the legs page and let's press on. A good evening to you too, Air Holland. And thank you for joining the stream today. Right, so pressing on, it's time to do our functional evaluation checks. So let's do that once away. And I'm always a bit confused as to where to start with these. Should I start at the overhead or should I do the flight engineer's checks first? And let's do the flight engineer stuff first. So coming over here, let's do our squib test, like so. That light checks out, do our fire tests, and fault test as well. All checks out. And coming over here, we can see our gen tie breakers. Let's trip them to ensure they come active once the engines start. CSD, disconnect, and all that we're not going to touch. The fields, so on and off control for the generators, they're all closed. Let's do our annunciator light test, checking all the lights in the house are working. And yeah, very quick and easy way to determine that they are. So it's a good test. You can also add a bit of panel lighting if we were so inclined. And yeah, let's press on with the rest of the stuff. So coming over here, let's get the galley power on. Let's get the lavatory fans on, the chillers on, all this good stuff. And the galley mode will just keep on normal. If there was, say, an emergency, we could always shed the galley power by going to reduced. And also notice when we connected our external power 1 and 2, the split system breaker automatically opened. So that's a good sign. You can also check the rest of the DC meters, APU battery, essential transformer rectifier 1 and 2, and they all seem good. And yeah, coming over here to the fueling page, I think the fuel has already been added on, so we have nothing in the center tanks today, a bit more in the inner tanks and on the outer as well. So let's do our press to test the LCD gauges. We press this long enough until we get the error 0 warning, and then it can do the rest of its self-tests. And also if you have a look over here, you can see the range of outer display. It goes in increments of 5%. So 20 of these will equal 100%. Yeah, I'm not making it easy, aren't I? For this streaming, I could have selected a quite an easy aircraft to fly and could have let the automation do everything, but I decide to be adventurous. Right, we can also decide whether to turn the humidifier on or not. Cockpit temperatures we can keep in the auto. Let's turn the trim air on. Let's put the recirculating fans on. Engine bleed valves should be open on this type of aircraft for start. And I'll keep the Gasper fan off because it's quite loud. Right, coming over to the pressurization, we're going to set our cruise altitude, which was, hang on, this is the barometric altitude, so 29092. Going to set that over there, and the cabin altitude, sorry, is over here, so let's set 30,000 feet. And yeah, let's do our ground check. So we'll put this in the check mode like so, and we can do our rate limit test, just checking the full travel of the outflow valves, whether they're able to close, and make sure it's in auto. Okay, we can also go manual, and this arms the spring loaded switches, and you can see I've closed the left outflow valve, and I can even close the right. You can close them individually with manual left and manual right, or just in manual, then you can play around with both. So just setting that back to auto, and the outflow valve has gone back to the open position, which is what we need. Now coming over here, we'll do the rest of our squib tests. The left bottle, right bottle, squid, okay it says. Do our smoke test. Do the rest of the blower tests. Aft cargo heat, let's put that to the normal position. And yeah, let's do our fire tests and fault tests, like so. It all checks out, bell reset, and yeah, there's a couple of stuff we can do over here as well. Detection A and detection B. Right, so coming over here, let's do our hydraulic quantity test. So we press this, notice the quantity indicators go to 0 and the low quantity lights illuminate. So that's a successful test. Now the air-driven demand pumps, they should be in the off position for now. And you could in theory turn them to auto. I'll show you what happens and why we don't do that once the APU is started. So coming over here, we can check our wing leading edge overheats, and they should be set to both, and we can test system 1, system 2, and we're not going to worry too much about all this stuff. That's for like recording data and so on. We've got our anti-skid monitoring. We can also test our brake temperature, test all of them, the overheats, and cancel the warning like so. Anti-skid, we can test them like so, and yeah, that's about it. Body steering can be set to primary or alternate, and there's also an engine vibration pickup test over here, and we'll keep that as it is. Coming over here to the fuel section, we want to also test our cross feeds in transit, so let's test those out. The blue light is working. And also let's test our boost pumps as well. So let's turn all these on and observe the low pressure lights have extinguished, and we can now put them back off again. Right. And the configuration, since we have more fuel in the inboard tanks, would be to open the inboard cross feeds. Now on the 747-400, these are quite automated. And yeah, we do have a fuel aircraft remaining gauge, which we need to set manually, but I'm not sure if I'm so inclined to do that in this flight. Right, so coming over here, we can now go to our overhead flows. So the first thing I want to do is test the lights over here as well. You can check they're all illuminated, and coming over here, checking these lights, the reversal lights, the master warnings, and the rest of the gauges. Fire, push to reset. All these warnings are working and looking good. We got flap pronunciators, light tests, and yeah. So let's cancel that. Quite happy with that test. And yeah, proceeding with the overhead flows, we are going to, let's start at the top left and move down. So all these shut-off valves that control the supply of hydraulics to the control surfaces, we don't ever touch those, and there's no procedures that would actually mandate us to automatically shut one of those off. Let's arm the anti-skid, and coming over here, our ignitions are off for the time being. This is our alternate gear test, which we'll be doing later. We don't need HF radios for now. And let's turn this no smoking, fasten seatbelt signs on. Let's arm the emergency lights. And yeah, there's a wheel fire detection test over here. And let's press on. Coming over here, everything looks good. Alternate flaps all stowed. Let's do our over rotation test, over speed test, so on. Let's also do a ground test for the wing anti-ice. All checks out. Let's check our probe heats if they work. Yep, all good. Window heats, let's turn them on and do our power on test and power on lights. Yep, all checks out, and let's set them back to off for the time being. And we can also add some dome light if we wanted to. So coming over here to the main panel, just checking all our gauges are working. Let's test our nav radios, set them to the test option, and let's turn them back to norm. Also, let's fly radio navigation today. for the first part, so let's tune in 112.80, already done. And yeah, quite happy with all this. There's a couple more checks over here.
Pull up.
The
Glide
GPWS
slope. Glide
test.
slope.
Ah, the airplane
Pull up.
guy has
Glide
joined
slope.
the chat.
Glide slope.
And yeah, hello everyone. I've got the chat open on another stream, so let me write stuff. There's a couple of comments. I remember one of these bad boys going down in Amsterdam. Oh, you're referring to LL Flight 1862. Yeah, that was a... You know, I'd seen that air crash in 2019 when I was still at school. I'd first seen it and stuck with me for days, you know, for days on end. I was thinking about that incident and was really saddened by it. More so that they were so close to the runway, you know, but they lost control because the flaps, I mean the slats, they didn't extend on the other side due to the engine departure. And that was really sad, and they were so close to making it, and then the first officer, his last transmission was going down. It was really upsetting. Plus the impact, you know, with the... Exactly, they were fighting the aircraft while flying over Amsterdam. They retrieved the FDR. Unfortunately, the CVR was never found. It was probably too badly destroyed. And yeah, in fact, they didn't even know what happened. So when the engines departed, it actually wrongly sent off the fire alarm system. So it started to trigger off these bells over here. So they thought there was an engine fire and they shut down those two engines. But little did they know that the engines were already gone, departed. They were both fighter pilots. Yeah, indeed. And also, I think the flight engineer, if I'm not mistaken, was very close to retirement. And he just had a few flights left. So that was a really tragic accident for not only the aircraft, but the community as well. So we can come over here and check the rest of our stuff. I like to arm EPR mode from now, take off dry, and yeah, because we're going to be using this for takeoff, we can also do our TCAS test. There we go, TCAS test. I'm just waiting for the TCAS test.
System
okay.
Test OK.
Okay, that checks out. TCAS system test okay. Weather radar's off for the time being. We don't need it. And yeah, let's get the APU started. Okay, so don't waste too much time. So coming over here, APU, let's hold it at start. You can see the APU door warning. And once that warning goes away, then the APU will start to spool up. There we go. And it spools up real quick, so I don't know if that's real behavior or not. There we go. APU is spooling up. And no, this is actually X-Plane 12. This is... X-Plane 11 is... I use it, but for the 727. So there we go. APU is on, and we can automatically see which boost pump it's taking it from. It's taking it from the number 2 aft boost pump. Of course, if you recall on the Boeing 747-400s, it actually draws fuel from the number 2 and the number 3 aft boost pump to prevent fuel imbalance. Right, so the APU is on, and after that we can just put the APU air on, like so. And there we go. Air pressure has risen. We can even put the packs on for the time being. And this is the reason why I don't put the air demand to auto at this time, because it steals air from your APU, which can be used to start the engine. So that's good to know. Right, so let's just check if everyone's on board. So they're already on board, that's for sure. And yeah, let's check the fuel also. we definitely have all the fuel on board as well. So that's all good. And yeah, we can therefore get the external power disconnected. Before I do that, let us connect the APU. So closing the fields for the APU and closing the APU gens. There we go. APU is now powering the aircraft and the external power is not. We can also come over here, check our APU gens and checking the output, and they're all good. So coming over back to the EFB, and let us disconnect the APU. So going to ground services. I keep pressing the wrong one. Remove the chocks, remove the GPU. Yeah, that's all good. And let us also check our takeoff performance now. So let's get that sorted. So performance calculation, let's read the data from the sim. And yeah, so we have a V1 of 114, rotate 121, V2 142, and let's go. Let's set the speed bugs. It does it automatically over here. And a V2 of 142. So let's dial in a V2 plus 10 of 152, like so. And runway heading is 246. Let's dial that in. Yeah, you're filling the role of 3 people. In fact, indeed, yeah. And we're on heading select. Let's keep us on that. And let's say altitude select. Let's dial in 10,000 feet for now. Go altitude select. Let's turn our flight directors on as well. We can also see our flight mode is showing altitude select. If I was to go to INS or show nav, let's keep it on heading for the time being. And what did it say our initial pitch is? Initial pitch is 19 degrees. I think this only goes up to 15 degrees. So let us set our initial pitch. I don't think it'll even go that high. There we go, it's settled at 15 degrees. We can also test our ADI, like so, be like in the Concorde, and yeah, we don't really have to worry too much about this instrument warning test. And let's press on. So, right, should we start our engines then? Not too much of wasting time. So let's get the boost pumps on. And we'll be doing, yes, all boost pumps need to be on. And actually, yeah, let's keep them all on for start. And I'll explain later. So, right, we need to, let's turn off 2 of the packs and ensure there's enough pressure for engine start. And let's see, what else do we need to do? I think everything else is good. So let us start the engine. Let's put the beacon on. Also, let's turn on the auxiliary hydraulic electrically driven pump for system 4. And this automatically goes off once the engine is started. Okay, so let's start number 3. So arm the start valve like so, and we can choose either system 1 or system 2. And let's choose system 1 today. There we go, start valve is open. Coming over here, we can see our N2 is rising steadily. Let's come to the outside. There we go. It's spooling up. And just waiting for 20%. There we go, 20% fuel on. There we go, engine gas temperatures is rising, and we have a successful light of number 3. Okay, so number 3 is running, and the starter should automatically go off now at any moment. There we go, and as you can see, there's quite a lot of air now, so let's start number 4. Starting engine number 4. Start valve is open. Let's see how much air we've got. We still have 40 psi, so in fact, if I'm adventurous, I can even start number 1 and number 2 also at the same time. There we go. so we're starting all of our engines now. And yep, number 4 is already waiting. Fuel on. And yep, number 1 and number 2 also. So fuel on, number 2, number 1. And yeah, all 4 engines are now spooling up. Pretty cool. So, and the starters are going to all go off now. There we go. Let's close the start valve, and yeah, so now what I want to do is I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do now, and it's quite interesting, so stick around, and quite fast paced. So checking our AC meters, Gen 1, 2, 3 and 4 all check out. So closing the Gen tie breakers like so, closing the split breaker, APU air goes off, APU goes off, and coming over here we can turn our packs back on like so, and turn our air demand pumps to auto. And that is the flight engineer's stuff done. Also, let's go flaps 5 for takeoff. So there we go, flaps 5. Let's monitor them, the left hand side and the right hand side. And let's switch to the outside view. There we go, flaps 5. Let's also do our flight control check. So coming over here, full left, checked, neutral check, right check, down, neutral check, and full up. Okay, flight controls are checked. And finally we need our trim for takeoff. Stab trim 3 units. So come over here and let's see, what are we at? We're already at stab trim 3 units. Right, let's get our landing lights on, runway turn off lights on, and we can put the beacon off. Let's put the strobe on, and yeah, we're ready to go actually. So let's put the packs on half because of the takeoff and all that. So final cursory glance, flight engineer station is all checked, there's nothing wrong. Also in the 747-400 you tend to close the inboard cross feeds for when you have flaps deployed. And let's see, right now we're going tank to engine and we'll keep it that way. Right, parking brake release, and let's start taxiing. Oh yes, probe heat, one last warning is here. Let's put the probe heats on, and let's put the window heats on as well. Right, we're all set. So spooling up a little bit, and let's start the taxi. So got a question in the chat, why not the INS or the LTN92? Well, those are good questions, and I've tried INS for quite a lot of flights already, for Concorde and the Boeings and so on. So I thought, why not just use the FMC today, because I'm a little lazy. And the LTN92 I've not actually tried yet, ever. So that'll be an interesting first time. So just taxiing along, let's do our autopilot engagement checks. So autopilot 1 is engaged. Autopilot number 2 checked. Okay, autopilot checks are successful. And let's start the chrono as well. Monitor our flight time. And yeah, I think we're all ready. Just TCAS, set that to TARA like so, and auto brakes, we actually keep them off. And flaps is set to 5. Actually, let's go flaps 10. You know, we're quite a short runway, so let's go flaps 10. Okay, just turning onto the runway. Yeah, good point. You never use flaps 5 for 747 takeoffs. I was getting a little mixed up, I guess, with the 737. But absolutely right. Anyway, so let's go. So spooling up. EPR. Okay, I've got a takeoff config warning, which doesn't make any sense. And I'm going to continue, therefore, with the takeoff. Nothing seems out of the ordinary. Okay, let's rotate. There we go, positive rate, gear up. Pitching to maintain B2 plus 10, so let's go IAS hold. Let's also adjust our course. Okay, let's go climb thrust. Let's go over here. There we go, climb thrust. And already approaching 3,000 feet, so let us go to vertical speed. Let's dial ourselves down and start retracting our flaps. Okay, let's go flaps 5, and let's see, flaps 1 at 196. There we go, let's go flaps 1, and then finally we can just go flaps up. Okay, flaps up. Let's also follow the FMC, so let's go to INS, and let's go direct intercept, waypoint number 3, execute that. And we're approaching 250 knots, so as we go to 250 knots, I'll go to IAS hold. Okay, 250 knots, IAS hold. Let's engage the autopilot now. Let that take over. There we go. So nicely, smoothly on the autopilot. Let's turn the landing lights off as well. Runway turn-offs. And yeah, let's restore our pack flow. Like so. And now that we've got flaps up, we can open up our inboard cross feeds, and these should actually, we need to turn off our outboards because they don't have overriding capabilities. Fuel heats, let's set to auto, and yeah, I think that's all good. Pitch trim is not in green band, yeah, let's see. It could be actually the reason. Okay, altitude alert, coming up on 10,000 feet. Let's go to 15,000 feet for the flight tests. 15,000. And yeah, let's start to accelerate beyond 250 knots. Okay, let's go IS hold and continue our climb. Okay, we've approached 15,000 feet. Let us go to speed mode right now. And let's say set about 280 knots or so. This is standard X-plane scenery. I just had to reinstall X-plane because of some issues, so yeah, I definitely don't have any custom X-plane scenery. Okay, so we're at 15,000 feet, and let's keep the no smoking and fasten seatbelt signs on because of the test. And come over to the flight engineers panel. Everything looks okay. And yeah, so what should we test first is the question. Should we test our flaps or? So let's do the stall test first. I'm going to dial ourselves down and we're going to start getting into the landing configuration. Okay, so let's go gear down. Okay, landing gears down, 3 green, and locked. And just checking our speed bugs very quickly. We have, let's go next notch of flaps. We need to go flaps 10. Let's go flaps 31, 52 knots. Okay, so let's do the first stall test. So this test I'm going to do is I'm going to apply full power and pitch up until the aircraft stalls. Okay, there's no stick shaker, but we are definitely entered into the stall. So the stick shaker has not passed the test. Okay, so I'm going to add that to the list of failures that the stick shaker has not passed the FEF functional evaluation test. Let us now do a stall in the clean config. So let's go to altitude hold. And let's go to about, say, 250 knots, and we'll go in the clean configuration. Okay, so in the second set of stall tests, I'm going to go manual and pitch up in the clean configuration to about 20 degrees or so until the aircraft stalls. And we'll observe the characteristics then. So going manual control, turning off the auto throttle, and I'm going to pitch up as is until we stall. There we go, stick shaker is activated at about 140, 150 knots, and we keep pulling up until we enter deep stall. can feel the buffeting there. We're still relatively stable. I'm using full trim up and full nose up. Okay, now we're really beginning to stall. I'm getting some adverse roll. Requiring full deflection to counteract it. There we go, roll in the opposite direction. There we go. I'm going to terminate the test. We're getting within unsafe limits. I'm going full power. Power ourselves out of the stall. There we go. Okay, we're still... There we go. Out of the stall. Let's engage the automatics again and go altitude hold. Okay, so we are relatively stable. The aircraft is following the nav path again, and we're leveled off at 17,000 feet. Now let us test the alternate gear system. So let's assume that we've lost hydraulic power and we need to lower the gear. So let us slow to about 200 knots and let's get the gear out. So to do that, we're going to the alternate gear extension, opening the guards like so. And on my mark, I'm going to drop the gear. Okay, the landing gear is still dropping via gravity and we can see the door open lights, but the gear down and locked 3 green is not yet illuminated. There we go. The right hand side gear down is showing green and locked, and the left hand side is still in transit. Okay, so unfortunately this test has not been satisfactory. The gear, although it did extend most of the way through gravity, it did not fully lock. So I'm going to now disarm the system and retract the gear. Okay, so the gear is retracted, and the next test I want to do is the alternate flap test. So to do that, we're going to, let's say, slow down first to safe speed. Let's see, so let's keep ourselves at 200 knots and go flaps 5 for the, and let's actually extend the leading edge as well. So coming over here, let us extend the alternate flaps. So we're going to arm both systems like so, and these are spring-loaded switches, so let's extend them. Okay, now let's check out the trailing edge flaps. So let's set them to down. As we can see, because they are electrically driven, they're moving extremely slowly. Okay, the leading edge is extended. And the trailing edge is following suit. So question in the chat, it says you need to select the flap handle. Yes, that is the case for normal extension, but today we are testing out the alternate extension. So that's why we have these controls at the overhead. So we armed the system for leading edge and trailing edge devices, and we have extended them. And they are extending, just really slowly. So they've extended to position 5 and now going to flaps 10. So the next thing I want to test out is basic autopilot modes. So I want to check out EPR, and let's set ourselves to G8. Let's see how well the engines are able to maintain the go round EPR. And I'm going to select IAS hold and start to climb. There we go, IAS hold, and let's dial in about, let's say 25,000 feet. Actually 30,000 feet. So we're currently climbing out at close to 4,000 feet per minute at go round EPR. Now let us set ourselves to climb thrust and see how that manages. So as you can see, the EPR bug has gone down, the throttles are pulled back, and we are lowering our rate of ascent. There is actually one more test that I wanted to do, and that is the engine restart test. So I'm going to level off here and let us try to restart our engines. I'm going to shut the engine number 4 off, like so. We've observed the rollback and we've still got satisfactory performance. So I'm going to put the fuel switch up and going to attempt to relight the engine. Since we are above 250 knots, I can easily go to flight start. And there we go, number 4 has come back to life. So nothing too complicated there. You can also check our electrics, how they are managing. As we can see, the gen tie breaker for number 4 closed, but due to the split circuit breaker being shut, no bus tie was left unpowered. So we can now check our gen 4 output and close that. There we go. There we go, we reached Mach 8, so I've selected myself Mach hold instead of IAS hold. And we are now climbing at our optimum Mach climb speed. Another thing I need to do is to rectify our fuel imbalance. We currently have 5,530 kilograms in the inboard. There we go, we reached 30,000. I'm going to engage Mach hold. So we need to rectify the fuel imbalance. We currently have about 5,400 on the inboards, but we have over 8,000 plus the reserve on the external. So what I'm going to do is open up all the crossfades and shut off the inboard boost pumps until we are level. The story behind this livery is it's the Rolls-Royce one. You see, the Rolls-Royce, they had this test bed that was a 747-200. And they used it for about 3 decades, and then finally they retired it. They got the 747-400, so at least they kept it in the family. But I'm proposing a mission where this recently retired Rolls-Royce 747 actually comes out of retirement and is going to go to another company. But for that, we need to do functional evaluation checks to ensure it passes. And that's made for quite an interesting mission where we can do all these stall tests, jettison, and alternate extensions and so on. Okay, so we have about 100 or so nautical miles to make our descent to about 16,000 feet. So let us dial that in. Okay, so another test has been proposed in the chat, losing engines 3 and 4. So 2 engines on the same side. So let us do that and see how the aircraft behaves. So the first thing I'm going to do is shut off the fuel to number 3 and number 4. You can see the auto throttle is kicked in and is spooling up. We can also observe a bit of a yoke deflection to maintain the same heading. And yeah, the performance is not actually that bad at this speed because the speed is quite high, so we don't actually need too much control force to stabilize the aircraft. If we were to observe this on the outside, it would probably be negligible. How about you manage a 2-engine for approach and landing? Now that's asking for a bit too much, don't you think? I'd done it a couple of times in Flight Simulator X. There was one mission, and sometimes the aircraft would go into an adverse yaw and then just stall and crash. Especially at those speeds, you need so much thrust, but to balance that out is quite tricky. So let us attempt a restart of those engines. I'm going to. Another thing also just noticed is notice how the air demand pumps have kicked in as well. They've been set to continuous to maintain hydraulics. So it's quite a simple procedure. I'm going to open up the fuel flow and go to the overhead and go to flight start for number 3 and number 4. There we go. Three and 4 are back online, so I can set it to off and also close the gen control breakers for 3 and 4. Okay, so it says we should be at 290 knots for the time being, so let's go back to speed select. And let's pull ourselves down to 290 knots. Also, let's resolve any fuel imbalances. We've currently got, let's see, we still have quite a lot on the outboards, and it seems to be taking its time because I've opened up the crossfeed, shut off the inner boost pumps. We have a slight imbalance between the inboards. There we go. So by doing this, we're now pulling fuel only from the number 2 main. Actually, it's not the number 2 that has the imbalance, sorry, it's the... This one actually has more, so I need to pull a bit from this one. What we could do if we wanted to, because we have quite a lot of fuel, is we could jettison a little bit out of number 3 main. So this is your fuel management tutorial, guys. So we've still got quite a lot on the outboards. That's the problem. So we could in theory move the outboards to the inboards. There's a way of doing that actually. There we go. So by turning on the number 2 and number 3 override pumps for the outboard and turning on the inlets, we can actually see fuel is moving from the outboards, which were the troublesome part. They had much more fuel into the inboards. So that's quite an interesting observation. And this is definitely much faster than turning off the inner boost pumps and waiting for the outboards to level off by cross-feeding all 4 engines from only the 2 outboards. So that's quite a interesting solution. And that's fuel management for you. So we're still 33 nautical miles away from where we should be at about 16,000 feet. And if we can also change our flight altitude in that case for the pressurization. So actually cabin altitude now is what, 3,000 feet? Yeah, we don't actually have to touch this in that case. What we could do is maybe another jettison if we got so much fuel. I intentionally took more fuel on board for this purpose, so let's see what tank should we jettison out of. Altitude alert, 1000 to go. We're approaching 16,000 feet. We can try another jettison. I don't see why not. Maybe we could... Which one should we get fuel out of? Maybe let's get some fuel out of the number 2 main. Why not? So we can also try dumping fuel from the outboard. So let's see which ones. Actually, we can just transfer some more inboard if we wanted to. So okay, 3 nautical miles away, and from turning on to the next waypoint, you can see the sea is coming up. Then we'll be taking a left turn and doing the landing. Okay, so now we need to be at 240 knots and we need to descend to about 3,200 feet. Let me show you how to do an IAS hold descent. So long we've been descending on vertical speed. I want to show you something different. So I'm going to dial in my altitude. Like so. I'm going to disconnect the auto throttle, pull back, and when we reach 240 knots, I'll select IAS hold. Also a good idea at this point to set our thrust rating to go around. So G8, we can see the EPR bug has gone up. And that basically means if we need to go around, we can easily do so. So let's see how the fuel is going. Okay, so this is interesting now. So what I've been doing is I've been actually actively transferring fuel from the outboards to the inboards via the jettison system and the inlets. So right now I've got 7,570 in the inboard and about 4,760 plus the reserve. Actually, we'll probably not even need to use the reserves today. Normally when the outboards drop to about 2,300 kilograms, then we use the reserves. So just checking our landing. Also, let's see what speed. We need to be at 190 knots now. Okay, so I already showed how to do IAS hold descent. Let us also now try to do a vertical speed descent. I've got full speed brakes deployed as well. Thinking of extending a bit of high lift surfaces. We still got about 20 nautical miles. Altitude alert, 1000 to go. We can also start tuning up our approach. So the runway 25 left is 109.90, like so, and course of 246. And let's set that both sides. So currently we can go flaps 1 at 207 knots. And yeah, we can actually go flaps 1 right now. Flaps 5 at 187 knots. So actually we can go easily flaps 5 as well, so. And since we're doing tank to engine at this point, I can just shut the outboard cross feeds. And yeah, tank to engine. We can also set our auto brakes for landing. Let's go to medium. It's always a good choice. Let's put the landing lights on as well. Okay, so we're approaching the glide slope and let's go gear down. Let's set our final approach speed, which is, let's see, 132 knots for flaps 30. There we go, we've caught on to the glide slope. Extending our flaps now. Let's go flaps 30. Just checking our speed brakes, they're armed, and our thrusters go round. We're a little bit high on the glide slope, but I don't think that'll be an issue. We can also check auto land status, so if we go to land, select the second autopilot. And if we wanted to go auto land 3, at that point it would open up the DC buses to open, and that should do the trick. You can also see that flare is activated. So we're just checking the auto land status, and yeah, it seems to be all good. Go round is automatically activated, has been armed, and flare mode is enabled. Instead of doing all that, let's just take manual control of this. There we go, just checking the reversers, and I think that all checks out. Reverse lights out. And yeah, we have successfully landed. Let's disarm the auto brakes. And now I'm going to turn in and shut the aircraft down. So you're just going to park and then we'll shut the aircraft down. I'll turn the flight directors off and yeah, just taxiing along quite smoothly now. Put the landing lights off. And then we'll prepare for a proper stopover. Well, thank you for your kind words, Air Holland. And well done on today's stream, very in depth, just like we'd expect. Oh, I didn't know I'm building expectations now. Well, that's great to hear, actually. And thank you so much for joining me. If there was no one to participate, it wouldn't be very interesting, would it? Yeah, I do actually like the classics. I mean, a lot of people are like, they like the magenta a lot, but there's something about these aircraft which are really nice. And probably would need suggestions as to what other aircraft to fly. Got a question in the chat saying when am I going to do the DC-8? Yeah, I'll definitely do that at some point. And maybe next week, we'll see. And probably be a good tutorial, maybe a long flight. We'll focus on how to manage all those boost bumps. Yeah, I mean, I do like the analog a lot compared to what one captain said, children of the magenta. So I'm just going to park over here and proceed with a lightning quick shutdown. Okay, so let us get the chocks on. There we go. So set the chocks, and yeah, that should secure us. And let us quickly shut down. So coming over here to the top, we can turn our mode selector units back to off, and we can turn the nav light off. We're not going to stay powered up, and auto brakes and so on are disarmed. When you're preparing for a real stopover, you would disarm the emergency lights as well, like so. And let's turn the probe heats off, window heats, like so. And yeah, come over to the fly engineer's deck real quick. Let's turn the packs off, the circ fans off, and let's put the air demand pumps back to the off position. Let's put the boost pumps off as well. There we go, boost pumps, they're off. And yeah, let's see what else. I think that's pretty much it actually. We can now proceed for proper engine shutdown. Well, thank you too, and see you on the next stream. Have a good rest of the weekend. And there we go, we properly shut down, and last thing to do then would be to shut the standby power and battery off. There we go, a fully shut down 747. So hope you enjoyed the flight today. And there's quite a lot of things I learned myself, and had a quite enjoyable time practicing how to stall an aircraft and how to extend alternate gear, alternate flaps, do a bit of fuel jettison. And it was quite enjoyable and really appreciated. We've been, 90 minutes in the air? 96 minutes. And I'm going to stop the chrono there. And now I guess all that's left to do is to disembark and close down today's stream. Hope you had a good time, and we'll see you in the next stream with another interesting and classic aircraft.